My name is Geoff Mymin. I'm a committee member of the South African Film Festival, and it's my very big honour today to introduce Lovemore Ndou. I feel very privileged because as a boxing fan, I observed Lovemore coming to this country many years ago and saw most of his fights, and it was really something to behold. As Muhammad Ali once said, float like a butterfly and sting like a bee, and that pretty much summed up Lovemore. You know, he had the brutality, but he had the beautiful, sweet science of boxing. So welcome, Lovemore. I'm going to start off by a quote from your book called Tough Love, which I would recommend if anybody who's interested to read. It's actually by the gentleman right above Lovemore's head, Nelson Mandela. It always seems impossible until it's done. And I think that pretty much sums up Lovemore's career, which is truly remarkable. And I'll just give you a little pen picture. Lovemore is from the Venda tribe. You can see that his shirt is the insignia of the Venda people. He was brought up in extreme poverty in what we used to call Messina, but changed its name to Musina. He only went to school first when he was 9 years old. Musina is about 15 kilometers from the Zimbabwean border. So there was an endless stream of refugees coming across the border. He actually went to live in Zimbabwe for 3 years and experienced extreme deprivation. He was surrounded by people in gangs, a lot of violence, and basically took to boxing to protect himself and his family, and developed that into a remarkable career. But at the same time, he was subject to some very brutal treatment at the hands of the apartheid authorities, including a trumped-up charge which put him in prison for I'm not quite sure exactly how long, but quite a good period of time. And he was assaulted to within an inch of his life, including getting bitten by a dog. And he now bears the scar of that dog attack. He then came to Australia through various means and established an unbelievable career here in Australia in boxing and became a triple world champion. But really what differentiates Lovemore from, I think, just about every other boxer I've ever heard of is the way he, once he finished boxing, he turned his career into a legal career, which is also somewhat an adversarial career, and now has aspirations to move into politics. And again, I can hark back to Muhammad Ali as one of the few boxers I know who's established some political side to his career, but of course he never went into politics. It was really just his stance on the Vietnam War. But Nelson Mandela's had a huge impact on Lovemore's life. And welcome, Lovemore.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it. It's a privilege to be talking to you.
Thank you very much. So we're here tonight to talk about the film Africa Moot, which is what this interview relates to, because Lovemore's career is pretty much relevant to that film. I see the film Africa Moot as essentially about four ideas which are enacted within the framework of a contest for aspiring lawyers in Africa, competition, ambition, the refugee crisis, and a Pan-African utopia. We can explore these topics in the context of Lovemore's remarkable career, both in boxing and the law. So I'll start off, Lovemore, by saying white-hot competition and the pressure to perform for your country is the essence of this movie. You were brought up in an environment of extreme poverty, brutality, and racism. You somehow managed to channel your anger and resentment from your childhood into a brilliant boxing career and then a remarkable pivot into the law. I'm interested in how you made this transition and whether the kill or be killed competition in boxing has any similarities to your legal practice.
Look, I think the first thing I would discuss is the film, African Moot. I find it's a great film, with creative camera work. I find it is an educational film, and all the protagonists play their parts well. The film does pretty much exactly what it sets out to do. You could argue that it advertently invites you into a debate about current social and human rights issues, such as refugee issues, asylum issues, human displacement, homophobia, xenophobia, LGBT issues, you name it. For me also, I think it is also great to see young Africans come together and advocate for human rights protections without being radical about it. I see it as the type of film you can watch together as a family and at the end engage in a constructive debate. I find the film touches with me, as a legal ego myself, and a political activist, I find it resonates with my beliefs. And I also find that in a way, it indirectly questions the ideology about, Pan-Africanism. Why do I say so? Look, Pan-Africanism is said to be a movement which views all Africans and descendants of Africans as belonging to a single race or otherwise, sharing cultural unity. The question then is, if we support and promote, xenophobia tendencies, which is currently an ongoing issue in South Africa, yes, or promote harsh, anti-gay policies, as is the case in countries like Uganda, Zimbabwe, and Liberia, how then can we argue that we are a single race that shares cultural unity? How can we say we are united if we dislike people from other neighboring countries or discriminate against others because of their sexual preferences?
Yes.
So that's why I say this film, it touches with me because it raises all those issues, which are issues that I'm always concerned about.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of my, my upbringing, like you said earlier, you already said it in the introduction. Look, I come from a very, very poor family. And when I say poor, I mean to an extent that, there were days that will go by without a meal. Like you mentioned, I didn't start school until I was 9 years of age. And when I started school, I had to find a job so I can pay for my school fees and my school uniform. So I would finish school, go work, in the afternoons, cleaning other people's gardens and all that. And I was, and I grew up during, the apartheid era.
Yes.
And so I was exposed, to a lot of, political violence. You already touched on a bit about, what I went through with the police. Today, I carry a scar on my face, which is as a result of, the police setting a dog on my eye, almost bit off my eye. People often think it's from boxing. But look, I don't regret, what I went through as a child, because
yes,
it turned me into this person that I am today. I turned everything into something positive, which is why I actually wrote my book, which serves as an inspiration to others.
Yeah.
The point is, the fact that you had a bad start in life doesn't necessarily mean, your life ends there.
Yeah.
No, if you work hard, remain dedicated and determined, you always make your dreams come true.
I'm just interested, Lovemore, given that deprivation that you suffered, you then arrived in Australia, where you were subject to numerous instances of racial profiling. You then had to endure a succession of charlatans and con men during your boxing career. How did you retain your ambition to succeed as you have under such trying circumstances?
Again, like I said, I always try and use anything negative that happens in my life as an incentive to work harder.
Yes.
And that's exactly how I got where I am today. And unfortunately, when we talk about racial issues, racial discrimination or apartheid, I often hear people say to me, apartheid is a former problem of South Africa. I disagree with that. I say apartheid is a problem of the whole world, so Australia included.
Yes.
Just because it's not written into legislation doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It does exist. But the only good thing, only difference here in Australia is we have strong laws against, the practice of, racism. But it's still happening.
Yeah.
But you can't live your life, worried about, how people view you. You just gotta learn to accept that, some of these things, will happen. You just gotta deal with them. But doesn't mean you accept that, that's the right thing. No, because racism is it's a disease. It shouldn't, no one should support it. It's wrong from the core. It's a disease. Yeah. But it does exist.
Yeah. Living in Musina on the Zimbabwean border, and for years during the civil war in Zimbabwe itself, you experienced, as you said, many instances of xenophobia. Could you perhaps speak to that and where South Africa stands in its severe and seemingly never-ending xenophobic struggles?
Look, it's a big problem currently in South Africa. Again, goes back to what I said earlier on, that it goes, it questions the whole, Pan-Africanism movement. Here we have people coming from our neighboring countries. Some of them left their countries not because they wanted to, because of the problems they were facing. Yeah. And you find people coming to South Africa, and some of them contribute to the economy. They come and work hard. In fact, they even work harder, harder than the local people. So then why should we be discriminating against people like that? Okay, I've got an issue with people coming from other countries and bringing crime, to South Africa. Yes. Then I'll have an issue with that. But, with people that come with the right intentions and work hard, contribute to society, why should we, why should we be practicing, the xenophobic tendencies towards them? It's wrong. The government should do something about it. There should be strong laws against it. Something needs to be done.
Yeah. You spoke earlier, Lovemore, about the Pan-African utopia, which was expressed in the movie and then seemed to dissolve as the film progressed, largely due to country, ideological, and gender divides. South Africa can be viewed by many as being on a similar slippery slope to that since the huge optimism of the Rainbow Nation in 1994. Now, you've expressed some political aspirations yourself associated with a possible return to South Africa. I can even see some similarities here to your idol Mandela, both having been boxers and overcame adversity to establish legal careers. Do you still have the optimism that you can make a difference?
Oh, definitely. I'm really concerned about the current situation in South Africa. During the political struggle, of the apartheid years, with much blood split and many lives lost, the idea was that, once South Africa become a democratic state and its people gain freedom, it will be a country for all to live in harmony, irrespective of race, gender, religious, or political beliefs. There will be a government for the people, by the people, liberty, equality, and freedom of speech, which is the embodiment of an ideal democracy. We will turn our backs on the division and conflict caused by apartheid. South Africans, would share the wealth, and there will be an equal distribution of national resources, thereby improving everybody's lives. The ANC, the African National Congress, it promised much and ignited hope and optimism. It pledged free healthcare for all, school meals for children in need, electricity and clean water, free and better education, land for rural communities, economic growth, implementation of the rule of law.
Yeah.
To mention just a few items, from the to-do list.
Yes.
But instead, we have a country that is at the brink of collapse due to corruption and self-enrichment by those in power. We have nepotism, broken promises, and a failure to honor, stand by, and commit to election pronouncements and proclamations. We have a fractured educational system, and there continue to be wide discrepancies and shortfalls in education. Now, don't get me wrong, I do admit, that under the leadership of the late Nelson Mandela, the ANC did manage to bring together the people of South Africa and live up to many of his pre-election promises. But that was under his inspired leadership.
Yes.
Other than that, the best thing the ANC ever did for South Africans, I would say, was to successfully repeal the Population Registration Act, which was a pillar of apartheid, which required citizens to be registered as either white, Bantu, colored, or other.
Yes.
Since Mandela stepped down from the office, nothing virtuous has emanated from the ANC, with corruption being the rule rather than the exception.
Yeah.
Now, South Africa is a beautiful country, rich in mineral resources, and if properly governed, the basic needs of the ordinary people should be met. So those are some of my concerns. I feel the people need a party that will commit to pre-election promises and deliver, a party that cares about the welfare, well-being, and betterment of the people of South Africa, irrespective of party affiliation, gender, or race. South Africa is on the brink of total meltdown, and recovery of infrastructure will take longer if action is not taken now. The country needs a party that is willing to comply with and be guided by the principles of good governance, such as accountability, transparency, inclusiveness, and upholding and promoting the rule of law. These all ring hollow right now in South Africa. Currently we have a situation where public officials are not answerable for their behavior. A public office should be viewed as a public trust, and therefore those who serve in it are expected to be accountable and display loyalty, responsibility, integrity, and efficiency. This is the stuff of fantasy in South Africa. Now, look, I dream of a government that will strive to create jobs, build homes, provide better living standards, better education, clean water for all, tired roads and electricity. There should be no more dusty, rutted streets in townships. We are losing people on a daily basis in circumstances where it could be avoided. For example, asthmatic people who require their, nebulizers are dying due to the shortage of electricity. Gone should be the days of people, subsisting below poverty line. Gone should be the days of failing to provide critical services such as waste removal and adequate sanitation. South Africans need better public health. Tertiary qualification should be a guarantee of future employment, not the other way around. Now, I dream of a South Africa where our women and children are safe and protected. Women and children are exposed to rape and domestic violence on a daily basis. That needs to stop. The police and the justice systems are failing them. The community is left to resort to vigilante justice for self-protection. Now, look, I know the journey I'm about to embark upon won't be easy. I know I'm going to put my life at risk. And I know I'm going to upset a lot of people along the way and be a threat to a lot of them. I know they'll do anything to derail my mission, including most probable attempts to assassinate me. But I'm prepared to die for my country of birth. I'm prepared to die fighting the good fight. I fight for what I believe. I believe God put me in this world for a purpose. And with the support of the Almighty and your support, nothing can stop me.
Yeah. Well, I think those are unbelievable sentiments, Lovemore, and I would imagine there are plenty of people like yourself with the right ideas and integrity. They just unfortunately have not been able to come to the fore in South Africa.
Oh, look, I agree with you. Look, there are so many people who share, the same ideas as I do. The only difference is, I have a voice, so I'm sort of the voice of the voiceless. So I'm not the only person that's been disappointed by the current government. Yeah.
Well, having seen what you've achieved to date with your career, having moved into boxing and from boxing to the law, I see no reason why you can't be equally as successful in politics. And on behalf of the festival, I'd really like to thank you for sharing all that incredible anecdotes and thoughts on the country, and really wish you every success for the future, because as you said, South Africa is really at the tipping point at the moment and needs people like yourself to stand up and be counted.
Thank you. It was really an honor, speaking to you. Look, I always, I think my life can be described as a journey and preparation. I set out on a trek, seeking adventure and knowledge in Australia. I've now finished what I set out to do and gain the knowledge, I sought to gain. Now it is time to retrace, my roots and use the knowledge I've gained for the betterment of those badly let down masses in South Africa. Look, I know it might sound crazy and laughable when I tell people what I intend to do, but I live by the great words of Nelson Mandela. It always seems impossible.
Someone's got to do it. If not you, somebody else, because the country is desperate for it. So thanks again, and we'll certainly see you again at future discussions, I've got no doubt, because your story is absolutely a remarkable one. And congratulations on everything you've achieved.
Thank you again.